Hi, family. I know, you remember whenever I have the hat on, where am I? That's right, Nana and Saba are in Israel. And this today, where we're at in this area, is the areas that Nana and Saba love the most. It's so scenic, it's so memorable, and it speaks to our hearts. And so I wanted to show you a couple pictures of those places. For me, this is Mount Arbel. And I don't know if you can see in your pictures, but this area here that wraps around, this is the Sea of Galilee. I've been on top here, I'll show you more pictures. And right over here is where Capernaum's at. And that's where Jesus spent most of his time, and that's where he did the majority of his miracles. This whole area is the area of the Galilee, and I call it the school of discipleship, because all of Jesus' disciples, except one, and that was Judas, are from the Galilee. So, Mount Arbel, and here's some pictures, Saba's favorite place in all of Israel. And so now you can see I'm up on these cliffs. You can actually hike up these cliffs to the very top. Again, you're overlooking that same area there. This is a super cool place. And then you have at the very top, I'm looking down at that same Capernaum, northern shore of the Galilee. And remember those words, because Jesus tapped his disciples on the shoulder. 11 of the 12 are from this area. And he says what to them? He says, come follow me. And so when I'm up there and I'm looking out over all of that, usually the wind's blowing because they're pretty high up. I always hear Jesus' voice saying to me, come follow me. This is a very special place. And not to be, there I am. Here is the spot that I'm now going to say to you, come visit me. Because when Nana and Saba, when we go to heaven, we're going to have our remains left in these places that I'm going to show you that are super special to us. For me, this is the top of Mount Arbel, and there are 3 trees. And so if I go to heaven first, Nana has to bring my ashes and leave them here. So sometime in your life, you need to come visit Saba at his favorite place on Mount Arbel. And again, I said, not come follow me. I said, what? Come visit me. And this is the Sea of Galilee. All right, so that's where we're at. That's the area that we're at right now as you're watching this. Now, so this is Mount Arbel, and now I'm going to show you Nana's favorite place. And then we'll read in the Bible at the end of the Gospel of John about Nana's favorite place. And so there she is. There's your Nana. And this is a beach. This is a beach that's called Tabcha. Tabcha. And notice there's 3 heart stones that are there. And you'll see why they're there in a moment. But this is Nana's favorite place. This is on the Sea of Galilee. And when I was pointing out to you on that northern side where Capernaum was, it's like a couple football fields away from Capernaum. And yes, that is your Nana. And so here again, you can see those 3 stones, and you can see the Sea of Galilee, and you can see the little waterfall that's just off on the other side here. And I think I have one more picture. Yep, That's from the water looking up at the structure that's there. It's an old church. And this is a place that Nana loves to come and sit to read her Bible and to talk to Jesus. So, what's so special about this place? I've already told you what was special about Mount Arbel, but what about Tabqa? Okay, Bible's open, the last chapter of John, John chapter 21. Now, let's set the stage. What has happened at this time is Jesus has died, and he has been resurrected from the dead, Easter Sunday, and he tells Mary, go tell my disciples to meet me. Remember, he's in Jerusalem. He doesn't say, meet me around the corner. He says, meet me in the Galilee. Now, that's quite a hike. To go from Jerusalem, that's going to be a 3 or 4 day walk. Remember, they're not jumping on a bus or driving a car or flying there. And so this is all the way up north. This is where he grew up. It's close to Nazareth. So he's now going to meet them there. Now the disciples are distraught, especially Peter, because remember, Peter was told by Jesus, you're going to deny me 3 times. And Peter said, I'll never do that. I'll die for you or whatever. And Jesus says, you know what, Pete? Bottom line is going to happen. And so that's the last that Peter remembers when Jesus dies. So now he's resurrected, and the disciples are to meet him in the Galilee. And so that's where we pick this story up. John chapter 21, verse 1 says, after these things, everything that happened, the crucifixion, the resurrection, after these things, whoops, I should get the microphone. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias. That's also the Sea of Galilee. And in this way he showed himself. Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples were together. And Simon Peter's there. Jesus isn't there yet. They can't find him. And so Peter says, I think I'm going fishing. And they said to him, we're going to go with you also. And so they went out, and immediately they got into a boat. And that night they caught nothing. But when the morning had now come, guess who was on the shore? Remember where Nana was sitting at this beach called Tabqa? Jesus is standing right there. We're going to find that he's actually got a fire going. And the disciples are out fishing, but in the Jewish people never fished far from shore. So it's imagine a football field away. They can't quite make him out, but they're not out like in the ocean where they couldn't even see him. So they can make out a figure on the shore. So Jesus is standing on the shore, and the disciples didn't know it was him. And then Jesus said to them, hey, children, you got any fish? You got any food? And they had fished all night. They caught nothing. They said, no. And he said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some. And so they cast, and now they were not even able to draw them all in because of how many fish were in their nets. Now, when all this took place, Peter remembered. I remember when I first met Jesus, and he told me to cast my nets. I had fished all night and caught nothing, and he told me when I came to shore to cast my nets on the other side, and there were so many fish I couldn't bring them all in. I had to get help. So he made that connection. He connected the dots, and then he yelled out, it's the Lord. So therefore, the disciple whom Jesus loved, and that's John, that's the term that he likes, he says to Peter, "It's the Lord." And now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garments, for he had removed them, and he plunged into the sea. But the other disciples came in the little boat, for they were not far from the land, about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish. Then as soon as they had come to the land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid on it, and bread. And Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish which you have just caught." It's that same beach that we just saw Nana at. And Simon Peter went up, and he dragged the net to the land, and it was full of, notice what your Bible says, large fish, 153. You can ask Uncle Luke what that must have felt like to be dragging in 153 large fish. Or maybe Jack's quite the fisherman as well. And yet none of the disciples, he brings them up, and the nets were not broken, and Jesus says, "Let's have breakfast, come and eat." And yet none of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" knowing that it was the Lord. Now, there are many that look at this passage and they say, what is going on? They were with Jesus for at least 3 years. They lived with him. They walked with him. They talked to him. How could they not? What do you mean? Nobody dared to ask him, "Who are you?" There are those that believe. And this is the description that the prophet Isaiah gives us. That when Jesus died on the cross, they pulled his beard out, they beat him, they whipped him, they spit on him, they put a crown of thorns on him, and all of that, that would create scars. And some believe that those scars remain. And so when Jesus shows up, some of them are wondering, who is that? Don't stare. Who is that? But they knew it was the Lord. They heard his voice. They knew that. And just so you know, there are those, and Saba's one of them, that believes that throughout all eternity, that those scars will remain. And there's a song that says, "And forever they will say how much he loves us." Because Jesus died a brutal death on the cross for you. If you were the only one on the planet, you would have had to done it to him. But he loves you so much that he went through all of that. And all through eternity, when we worship him and look upon him, if those scars do remain, they will forever proclaim how much he loves us. And so we go on, and then it says, nobody wanted to say, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. And Jesus said, "Here's some bread, here's some fish, let's eat." And then John tells us this is the third time that Jesus showed himself to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. And then, if there was music in the background, dun, 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 then all of a sudden Jesus turns his focus onto Peter. Remember, he denied Jesus 3 times. And so when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus, and I got a feeling he called him aside at that beach, maybe right on those rocks where Nana was sitting, and he says to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these?" Now, Peter's knees must have been knocking at this time. He probably wanted to avoid this conversation, if at all possible. But he looks up and he says to Jesus, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus says, feed my lambs. And Peter's probably thinking, I'm glad that's over with. But no, notice in the next verse, verse 6, he says to him a second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And I wonder if Peter's thinking, and he says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And then Jesus says, tend my sheep. And then how many times did Peter deny? Yeah, 3. So guess what's coming? He said to him the third time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. Most assuredly, now he's eyeball to eyeball with Peter. Most assuredly, I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and you walked where you wished. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands and another will gird you and carry you where you do not wish. This he spoke, signifying by what death he would glorify God. And when he had spoken this, and this is important, he doesn't say, shame on you, now get out of here. No, this is a beach that I call Restoration Beach. This is a beach that I talk about redemption, rescue, reclaiming. It's a new start. And what does Jesus say to Peter now? The same words that he says to you and me. Follow me. Follow me. We, like Peter, are going to make mistakes. We're going to fall on our face. We're going to sin. And this beach, Rescue Beach, Redemption Beach, this beach always reminds us of the love of Jesus and his restoration of us. So when we stumble and fall, we can moan and complain and we can feel like giving up. But Jesus is going to say, lift your heads, look at me. Do you love me? You know I do, Lord. Do you love me? Do you love me? You know I do. Come and follow me. That's why I love this place. That's why it's Nana's favorite place. And so just like I had up there that picture of me with the 3 trees, and I say, come visit me, in the same way, Nana is going to be having her ashes at this beach. And I want you to come visit Nana sometime in your life. And when you're there, may you never forget this story in John 21. But one last thing before we leave, because I love the Bible, you know that. But do you remember now how many fish they caught? And this is specific because it's not around 100, it's not around 150. How many did they catch? 153. That means somebody was counting, right? 1, 2, 3. Somebody was counting those fish that they caught. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us, is there meaning behind that? Why wasn't it 154? Why wasn't it just 100? Why 153 fish? And then I've given you a picture that, can you see this picture on the last slide of the fish? Can you make out the 1, 5, 3? The 153, just so you know, and this is one of the reasons I love the Bible, is because in the Hebrew, the letters have numerical values. So let's make it simple. A would have 1, B would have 2, C would have 3, and so forth. You get it. And so when they're growing up in school, all they needed to do their reading and writing and arithmetic was the Bible, because they could give them a series of words, knowing that those words had numerical values, and they could say, let's practice our addition. Add up all those words at the end of the line. What does it equal? You following me? So if I take 153, just so you know, and I've given you the Hebrew here, where I am, that's an aleph, nun, yod. So these are, each one, remember, has a numerical value. I am, and this is God, or Yahweh, or the Lord. So if I take the words, I am the Lord, and I add them all up, you guessed it, 153. So right at the end of this story, Jesus is wanting to say, not only can I restore you, but in case, not only have I died, not only have I been resurrected, but just know this, I am the Lord. So out of time, when the hat's on, I'm in Israel. So next week, when you're watching this video, I'll be at a different place. And I'm thinking I'm probably gonna be in Jerusalem. We'll wait and see. God bless you. We miss you. We love you. We look forward to seeing you all. We're gonna have Thanksgiving together. And of course, Parker's birthday's coming up. So we'll see you soon. Shalom. From Israel, from Mount Arbel, from